Part 144. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1431. Actually, don't worry about Dementors, Xiaoming muttered to himself in the principal's office of Hogwarts. Professor Snape, who was accompanying him, couldn't help but ask curiously, why? Why did you mention Dementors? Of course he knew that Dementors had settled in Hogwarts. He was just curious why this child made such a random statement. The two had been staying in the principal's office, and the child had been in a daze. Why did he suddenly talk about Dementors? Xiaoming was speechless and didn't know what to say. Just before he entered Hogwarts in a carriage, Xiaoming felt the Dementors floating around. Because he was a newly appointed king of hell. In his Quafu underworld, except for his own ghost messenger clone, there were almost no underworld creatures. It was a little deserted. So whenever he encountered Dementors, Xiaoming would absorb them into the underworld. Let them have a more comfortable environment, and his underworld can be more lively. In the future, maybe he will make a special trip to Azkaban prison to take away all the Dementors. For now, he will just go with the flow and take them in whenever he sees one. Since the Dementors have settled in Hogwarts, all the entrances and exits have been guarded, and there are naturally many at the main gate. Xiaoming kidnapped all the Dementors that were not too far away along the way. His plan is that as long as Hogwarts accepts him, he will take away all the Dementors within a month. Such creatures should not stay in the world. I hope the Ministry of Magic will adopt the tactic of adding fuel to the fire and continue to send new Dementors to settle in. Xiaoming was watching the opening banquet remotely just now. When he heard Dumbledore mention Dementors, he was a little worried that they would hurt students. He decided to do more and kidnap all the Dementors at a faster speed. Thinking in his heart, he said it out of his mouth. Unexpectedly, Professor Snape, who looked expressionless and rarely spoke, was actually interested. He took the initiative to ask about the situation. Hurry up and make up an excuse. Well, it's like this. I lived with Professor Lupin before, and I encountered Dementors. I killed a few. What? Snape was shocked. You killed Dementors? How? How did you do it? Facing Dementors, Professor Snape could only use the Patronus charm to expel them, but he couldn't destroy them. I don't think I've ever heard that Dementors can be killed. Is this kid bragging? This, that. Xiaoming made a very embarrassed expression. That's a secret, let's talk about it after your principal meets me, okay? Snape frowned and didn't speak. He stared at Xiaoming sternly for a while, and then nodded slightly to indicate his agreement. What if he didn't agree? Snape couldn't bear to use magic to force a confession on a 6-year-old child. He just looked scary, not a bad person. He was dressed in a black robe, thin, pale, and had straight, greasy black hair that reached his shoulders. His eyes gave people a cold and unfathomable feeling. The most prominent thing was the huge hooked nose. Xiaoming was a little interested in this facial paralysis, and then used the power of the underworld to look through his life. He was quite moved. Severus Snape was born in 1960. His father was a Muggle, and his mother, Eileen Prince, was a magician. The family was not happy. In his childhood, in the Muggle world, Snape was not popular with children. At this time, he happened to meet Harry's mother, Lily Evans, and became friends. From then on, Snape fell deeply in love with this gentle girl. He was less than 11 years old at that time, and he was really a little devil. In 1971, the two of them entered Hogwarts School in the same year as James Potter, Sirius, Pettigrew, Lupin, etc. It's just that he entered Slytherin College while Lily and Potter and others entered Gryffindor. Snape and Lily began to drift apart and eventually broke up. The apparent reason was that once James played a prank, Snape lost control and called Lily Mudblood. This is an extremely insulting word for half-blood wizards, and Lily turned hostile at the time. Later, no matter how Snape begged for apology, he could not save this friendship. The real reason was that Snape was keen on black magic at that time and even became a Death Eater. This is a difference in philosophy. Otherwise, he would not have called out the word mudblood. Snape turned over a new leaf in 1981. At that time, Voldemort killed James Potter and Lily. The tragic death of his beloved made him wake up. He went too late at that time and only saw Lily's body and the one-year-old little Harry. Snape cried loudly while holding Lily's body, and regarded protecting Harry Potter as his lifelong mission. So he joined the Order of the Phoenix and became Dumbledore's undercover agent among the Death Eaters, and he still maintains his undercover identity to this day. Because of this, he was very harsh and strict to Harry Potter on the surface. Harry mistakenly thought that Snape was targeting him. In fact, it was completely the opposite. Harry Potter had a pair of almond-shaped green eyes inherited from his mother. Seeing these eyes, how could Snape be angry? To this day, Snape has never fallen in love with another woman. This is the rhythm of never marrying for life. What a poor spare tire/licking dog. Xiao Ming has never experienced this feeling of deeply loving someone. I can only admire him. I found that the 6-year-old child looked at me with pity. Snape was a little confused and could only think that he had seen it wrong. Not long after, there was a noise at the entrance, and Principal Dumbledore came back. Sorry, we kept our little genius waiting for a long time. As the top master in the magic world, Dumbledore was not arrogant at all and treated Xiao Ming very warmly. It was completely different from Snape, who had a paralyzed face. Severus, please go out first, let me talk to this little genius alone. Hearing this, Professor Snape had no expression on his face and went out with a cold face. Those who didn't know thought he was angry. Dumbledore had long been familiar with his character and didn't care at all. He poured Xiao Ming a cup of hot tea and started chatting with him. The principal didn't use any special magic to judge people, but relied on his superior intuition. He rarely made mistakes. In his perception, the child in front of him was a good person. But he was also an extremely powerful person. Facing him is like facing a dragon. Although Xiao Ming did not show his strength, Dumbledore felt that if the two of them fought, he would definitely lose. And he would be defeated overwhelmingly. The ninjutsu of a child could actually surpass the strongest person in the current magic world. Ninjutsu is indeed a powerful force. Lupin and Sirius really did a great thing. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1432. So, the prerequisite for becoming a ninja is to refine chakra. This chakra is a kind of energy produced by the perfect fusion of the energy of various components controlled by the human body. It is the source of energy for performing ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu. This energy consists of two types of energy. One is body energy absorbed from the 130 trillion cells of the human body. The second is the spiritual energy that has been tempered through many practices and accumulated experiences. After extracting chakra, you need to pass the seal before you can use various techniques. The leader's right guard, Huang Xiaoming, was actually not a good teacher. After a brief exchange of greetings, he said a lot of words to introduce the relationship between ninja jutsu chakra. Even he himself felt that what he said was very chaotic and not coherent at all. Dumbledore is still very powerful. He is worthy of being the principal of the magic school. He quickly refined Xiao Ming's words into concise language. Xiao Ming raised his hands and feet to express his agreement. Dumbledore frowned and began to think. Facing a person who is at the top of the magic world, using telepathy on him will probably lead to detection. And he casts a protective spell on his memory. Intuition told Xiao Ming that using normal means was useless. Fortunately, the power of the underworld, the Soul Stone, is difficult to detect, even by Dumbledore. Through this, Xiao Ming still saw the life of this big man. His full name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Born in 1881 in Godric's Hollow, the fertile land of the Empire where the sun never sets. He is over 110 years old this year and is truly immortal. Godric's Hollow is named after Godric Gryffindor, the great wizard and founder of Gryffindor House, as he was also born here. Later, the valley became one of the gathering places for half-magicians. Many families live here. Among them is James Potter's family. James and Lily actually died here. Dumbledore studied at Gryffindor House, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry from 1892 to 1899, specializing in transfiguration and defense against the dark arts. In 1945, he defeated the black magician Gellert Grindelwald. He discovered the 12 uses of dragon blood, and he and his partner Nico Flamel were very effective in alchemy. He was the only magician who was feared by Voldemort. In the eyes of the world, Dumbledore holds countless titles. He is the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, recipient of the Order of Merlin First Class, founder and secret keeper of the Order of the Phoenix, president of the International Federation of Magicians and chief magician of the Wizengamot. He has been nominated by the Minister of Magic many times and is recognized as the greatest magician of our time. He is a uniquely talented, kind, gentle, and insightful person. He has become a rare principal in the history of Hogwarts who is respected by all teachers and students. He sounds like a man who has been in a high position for a long time and has great authority. In fact, he is an amiable and humorous little old man. His attainments in the field of magic far exceed those of Voldemort and Snape. These memories play a guiding role in Xiao Ming's learning of magic. Xiao Ming suddenly realized that the King of Hell was indeed a very good job. Although absorbing other people's insights in this way cannot be 100% understood, and it also takes a lot of time to digest. But as long as the amount absorbed and digested is large enough, one's own strength will grow almost by leaps and bounds. Besides, the King of Hell is immortal and has plenty of time. Coupled with the soul gem exchange system, it is estimated that the strength of every King of Hell in the underworld will be particularly terrifying. Of course, the time consumed is also very considerable. Just the memories of Xiao Ming meeting these people, Sirius, Voldemort, Snape, and Dumbledore, would probably take several years to digest. Forget it, just live in this world for a few years. Maybe when I return to the real world, the rejuvenation medicine and the eating good food ability will also be analyzed. There is always going on, and after taking advantage of others, Xiao Ming is naturally satisfied with Dumbledore's current small request. Dumbledore asked the right guard to go to the Forbidden Forest and demonstrate the true power of ninjutsu on magical creatures. If possible, it would be better to show the Dementors. This little old man really didn't like the Dementors entering Hogwarts, but he couldn't disobey the Ministry of Magic's orders. But if a ninja killed him, it would have nothing to do with him. The Forbidden Forest is a large eerie forest located to the west of Hogwarts Castle. According to school regulations, students are not allowed to enter the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest is filled with dense and tall trees, covering the entire sky. There are various monsters and magical creatures living in the forest, such as werewolves, centaurs, giant spiders, thestrals, etc., which are very dangerous. But there are also auspicious magical creatures, such as unicorns. Rubeus Hagrid's hut is on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. His job as a gamekeeper is actually to protect the various magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest. First, he needs to prevent students from entering the Forbidden Forest illegally. More importantly, once the creatures in the Forbidden Forest escape, he is the first line of defense. He is familiar with many magical creatures and can calm them down relatively easily. If it doesn't work, just give it up. Hagrid's strength is not something to be boasted about. That night, the moon was dim and the hut received a group of uninvited guests. There were the principal, the deans of each branch, a few professors, and a 6 or 7-year-old child. Seeing such a huge battle, Hagrid thought he was in trouble again. You can't say that, because he likes to raise all kinds of magical creatures very much. In fact, he has been violating the rules all the time. The only difference is whether he was discovered or not. Hagrid is not a person who is proud of breaking the rules. He just likes all kinds of magical creatures too much. He often raises some rare species and rescues some injured species. He has the blood of giants in his body, so he is not easy to be hurt. But human magicians can't do that. Therefore, these behaviors are not allowed by the magic world. Hagrid thought about it and thought that nothing should be discovered recently. Could it be that something was exposed in the past? But with his brain, it is normal that he can't remember it. Dumbledore knows all the mistakes he made, and even many professors and teachers know a little bit, but they just let him go. He is anxious now, just thinking too much. No, no, no. Dumbledore, this is too much. This child is only 6 years old. How can he be allowed to fight against magical creatures? Absolutely not. After listening to the principal's intention, Hagrid, who was full of justice, didn't even give Dumbledore face, shaking his big head like a rattle, and refused very firmly. He didn't believe that a 6-year-old child was not inferior to the professors in the school. Letting Xiao Ming fight against magical creatures is simply murder. If Dumbledore didn't still have some weight in his heart, he would have been grabbed by the collar and scolded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1433. That's why so many of our professors are here, said Professor Minerva McGonagall, who looked kind. She wore square glasses, had black hair tied up in a high bun, and wore a dark green robe, which made her look like a noble lady. McGonagall is the head of Gryffindor College and the professor of Transfiguration. She is a fair tutor who treats the 4 colleges equally. She punishes students from her own college severely even if they break the school rules, so she is respected by all the students. She does not avoid punishing students from her own college, Gryffindor, and she is meticulous even if deducting points from them means losing the college cup. In fact, she is more keen on deducting too many points from students from her own college. She even loses the annual college cup. Although her reputation is not as good as Dumbledore's, she is also a veritable second person. Her reputation is much better than Snape's. In addition, McGonagall is an animagus who can turn into a tabby cat. When she is in cat form, the square glasses she wears are exactly the same as the lines around the cat's eyes. She didn't really believe in the strength of the leader's right guard. After all, Xiao Ming's 6-year-old body was really untrustworthy. When Dumbledore came to them, she almost thought the principal had Alzheimer's disease. At that time, many people felt the same way, except Lupin. Since Dumbledore had made up his mind, they had to follow him together. In case of danger, they could also help. With so many professors present, if this child could still be injured, they could almost resign collectively. Hearing what Professor McGonagall said, Hagrid seemed to be a little moved. At this moment, the leader's right guard suddenly raised his right hand and pointed it at the roof of the hut. The weird posture attracted everyone's attention. What does this kid want to do? Is he going to use the ninjutsu he mentioned in the house? Then we have to pay attention. Xiao Ming didn't waste any words. A golden ball of light shot out from his hand, like a cannonball, overturning a small piece of the roof of Hagrid's hut and hitting a Dementor in mid-air. The Dementor seemed to let out a shrill howl in the golden light, and then it disappeared into the underworld. In fact, it entered the underworld. The scene was silent for a while. Ah, my roof, Hagrid was the first to come to his senses. This kid was just showing off. Why did he flip his roof over? What if it rains tonight? Reparo, Xiaoming took out a wand and used a spell on the roof to restore it to its original state. So the whole roof was restored in front of everyone. Oh my, Snape, who was always serious, uttered a swear word. But it perfectly expressed the thoughts of everyone present. The power of the light ball just now was extremely strong. Breaking the roof was nothing. What was rare was that it could actually kill a Dementor. This stunned all the professors except Lupin. Dumbledore just felt that the leader's right guard was very strong, but there was no substantial evidence. And he didn't know how strong he was. An expert knows whether there is any as soon as he makes a move. Killing a Dementor casually is a bit too much. The magic world has never heard of Dementors being eliminated. This child's ninjutsu can actually do it. How can the professors of the magic school not be shocked? As for how to explain to the Ministry of Magic, no one cares too much. The relationship between Dementors and the Ministry of Magic is just an employment relationship. They are not magicians, not even human beings, but just monsters. The Ministry of Magic has no obligation to protect them. In fact, if there were magicians who could develop magic to kill Dementors, they would have exterminated Dementors long ago. This thing is really terrible. At most, 3 or 5 are left for fun. Even most black magicians hate this monster. They even hate Dementors more than white magicians. Because black magicians rarely practice the Patronus charm, when they encounter Dementors, they don't even have the power to protect themselves. It's just that most black magicians are dark in their hearts, don't have many happy emotions, and are not Dementors' dishes. This matter cannot be generalized. After all, dark magicians are also human beings, and they also have happy emotions. If they are targeted by Dementors, it will be very miserable. Therefore, the Ministry of Magic hired Dementors as guards of Azkaban prison, which is also a way of restraint. Both sides get what they need. Using prisoners from the magic world to satisfy the desires of Dementors, so as to detain Dementors in one place, they will not go around to harm others. It is also a good intention. Otherwise, there will be a protracted war between the magic world and Dementors. Some people may ask why dark magicians rarely practice the Patronus charm. In fact, this is still a problem of emotions. When using the Patronus charm, the magician must do his best to recall a happy thing, or recall something full of love and hope, which is exactly the food of Dementors. Generally speaking, people who will become dark magicians will not have much happiness and love, and even if they practice the Patronus charm, it will not be very powerful. Besides, if a person's heart is full of hope and love, it is difficult for him to become a dark magician. This is a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. Of course, there are dark wizards who can use the Patronus charm. At least Xiaoming knows that Professor Snape's Patronus charm is very strong. But we also know that he should be considered an outlier among dark wizards. It's not that he has no love in his heart, but that he is full of love. Even the form of Snape's Patronus charm is the same as Lily's. This is the power of love. But even the Patronus charm can only expel Dementors, not kill them directly. So the ninjutsu of the leader's right guard to kill Dementors was surprising. As for the magic repair spell he used later, it was a trivial matter in the eyes of all the professors. This spell is not difficult, even some students in school can use it. It's just that their magic power is far inferior to that of the leader's right guard. Their repair spell can only repair smaller things. Repairing the big hole in the roof requires professors. It is really amazing that a 6-year-old child has such magical abilities. But compared with killing Dementors, it seems mediocre. Only Dumbledore and Lupin knew that a month ago, this child didn't know magic at all. In just 1 month, without anyone teaching him, how did he learn magic? And where did the wand come from? Countless questions came to their minds, but they couldn't ask directly. After all, the status of the leader's right guard is very special, and it is impossible to ask him about it. When someone uses magic in front of him, it is also a way of expressing trust. He did not hide the fact that he learned magic from them. If someone has ulterior motives, he is more likely to play dumb. Dumbledore could not help but feel a little worried. The appearance of such an Oriental child who has powerful ninjutsu and is also a magic genius, he did not know whether it would be a blessing or a curse for the European magic world. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1434. Deep in the Forbidden Forest, on a vacant lot by the river, the principal, dean, professors, and teachers of Hogwarts School were watching the leader's right guard perform ninjutsu. Originally, the right guard was to fight with some magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest so that everyone could observe the power and practicality of ninjutsu up close. But after seeing the right guard kill the Dementor in one go, other magicians were fine, but Rubeus Hagrid was not going to do it. If ninjutsu was this powerful, if he tried it casually, I don't know how many creatures in the Forbidden Forest would die. He would be particularly distressed. So the display of ninjutsu was moved to this vacant lot. Earth escape, earth flow wall. The leader's right guard made seals with both hands, pressed on the ground and shouted, and 3 5-meter high, 5-meter wide, and 1-meter thick earth walls rose from the ground, connected to form a section of a wall in the shape of a J. Wind escape, wind blade. The right guard jumped back several feet, gathered rapidly rotating wind with both hands, and threw it out in a series. He cut the few bushes inside the wall into pieces. After leaving dozens of marks on the earth flow wall, it finally stopped. Thunder escape, fake dark. He spit out several lightning bolts from his mouth, splitting the already scattered bushes and causing sparks. The ground was also blackened. Fire escape, flame bomb. Since sparks were already coming out, Xiao Ming simply added a few more fireballs to set all the bushes on fire. Water escape, water dragon bomb. Of course, it is wrong to light a fire in the wild, and it will be bad if it causes a fire. A water dragon flew out of the stream beside the right guard of the leader and rushed into the fire. The fire naturally went out, and the surrounding earth walls, unable to withstand the blows of several forces in succession, completely collapsed. The scene was in a mess. Fortunately, the earth walls were used to limit the scope. The onlookers fell silent. Xiao Ming scratched the back of his head and said, "It's the same as the 4 major attributes of earth, fire, water, and wind in magic. This is the 5 nature-changing escape techniques of fire, water, wind, thunder, and earth in ninjutsu. In fact, there are yin escape techniques and yang escape techniques. I don't know yin escape techniques, and yang escape techniques are the ones that dealt with the Dementors before, and you've all seen them." Hualala, everyone was just stunned by the ninjutsu for a moment and didn't react. Only then did they realize it and sincerely applauded the leader's right guard. The ninjutsu that Xiao Ming displayed was selective. All the ninjutsu he displayed were medium powered. If the power was too low, it would be easy to be underestimated, and if it was too high, it would be easy to scare them, so this was more appropriate. Little did they know that even so, Dumbledore felt a little regretful. Before, he pushed Xiao Ming in front of all the professors from a selfless perspective. This kind of powerful power should not be completely in his own hands. It can be seen that he is not a person who covets fame, wealth, and power. Otherwise, he would not have rejected the nomination for Minister of Magic 12 times. However, after seeing the ninjutsu of the leader's right guard, he felt that he had not considered it carefully. Ninjutsu seems to be more powerful than magic. Although there are many magics used for combat and are quite powerful. However, since the magic world is generally peaceful, the development of magic is also comprehensive and does not focus on combat. Ninjutsu seems to be more professional. Just take the several ninjutsu displayed by the leader's right guard as an example. There are those for defense, those for special attacks, and those that can contain and stop the enemy. I believe there must be other various ninjutsu suitable for combat. Can this kind of thing really be promoted in the magic world? Dumbledore wants to introduce the power of ninjutsu to Hogwarts and the Ministry of Magic. The main purpose is to fight Voldemort and the Death Eaters. Now it seems that ninjutsu can indeed play this role. However, it is likely to bring about a greater crisis. Xiao Ming had told him long ago that ninjutsu is not only for magicians to learn. Muggles can also learn it. Introducing ninjutsu seems to balance the power comparison between Muggles and magicians. Dispel the arrogance of pure-blood families. However, this is not necessarily a good thing. In today's world, the conflict between Muggles, half-blood wizards, and pure-blood wizards has a long history. The rampage of Voldemort and the Death Eaters is actually the product of this conflict. Once ninjutsu is promoted, it may directly cause war. Dumbledore has always been committed to reconciling the differences between the parties and never wanted to use war to solve the problem. Many pure-blood families look down on half-blood wizards, and even more so on Muggles. Dumbledore is very disgusted with their arrogant attitude. But he only wants to change the concept of pure-blood families through propaganda and guidance, and has no intention of physically destroying them. That's too much. But now it's too late to block the news of ninjutsu. The professors and deans in Hogwarts School are not all Dumbledore's die-hard supporters. They have no obligation to keep the secret for Dumbledore. Most of the wizards who can teach at Hogwarts have quite extensive connections. Besides, with so many people entering the Forbidden Forest, they actually disturbed the various magical creatures inside the Forbidden Forest. Now there are many monsters observing here from a distance. Among them are giant spiders, centaurs, thestrals, goblins. It is even more impossible for them to keep secrets. Dumbledore listened to the conversation between the professors and the leader's right guard, and was still calculating the pros and cons in his mind. In the eyes of other teachers, ninjutsu is comparable to magic. Even if you learn ninjutsu, it may not necessarily enhance your combat effectiveness. It is not a good thing to be broad but not refined, and to be diverse but not specialized. A hero can use both swordsmanship and swordsmanship, but his strength may not be stronger than those who only know swordsmanship. These professors already have a mature combat system, so they don't really need to learn a new one. Besides, it's not certain whether they can learn it. Of course, as a new power system, they don't need to learn it, but they need to understand it. Knowing yourself and the enemy can win every battle. Hagrid and Professor Phileas Flitwick are the most interested in ninjutsu and want to learn it. They surrounded the right guard of the leader and asked questions. Others also had questions, but they couldn't get a word in. Fortunately, these two had asked very comprehensive questions, so they just had to listen. Ninjutsu is just like magic, it's not easy to learn. Many people are stuck at the initial level for their whole lives, and they can't even extract chakra. Xiao Ming's words partially dispelled Dumbledore's doubts. That's right. It's unrealistic to promote ninjutsu without dozens or hundreds of years. With this time as a buffer, the magic world should be able to adapt. Muggles have gained a new power, so magicians naturally have to put down their arrogant attitude, which may be a good thing. At this time, Professor Lupin came out to smooth things over. Okay, it's so late, and my distant cousin needs to rest. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Brother, are you afraid of sleeping alone in a room? Okay, I'm not afraid. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1435. The crowd then realized that no matter how powerful the leader's right guard was, he was still a 6-year-old child and had to go to bed so late. The ninjutsu he showed just now was so powerful that people had unconsciously ignored that he was still a child. After all, being short was nothing. Professor Phileas was shorter than him. Professor Lupin should have slept with the leader's right guard, but they had to sleep in 2 separate rooms. This was very strange at first glance. However, the professors present knew that Lupin was a werewolf. On the night of the full moon, he would turn into a wolf and lose his mind. It seemed that the child didn't know that although he was strong, he might be killed if he was caught off guard. So it was reasonable to sleep separately. And Lupin would take some other measures, asking Snape to prepare Wolfsbane potion for him. As long as it is taken 1 week before the full moon, the werewolf will remain rational even if it turns into a wolf. Unfortunately, it cannot cure the werewolf. Even if it is not for Xiaoming, Lupin needs to take the medicine for the students. In fact, Xiaoming already knew about this from Sirius's memory. He even helped a little. Recently, he inserted a sort of rewarding good and punishing evil into Lupin. Because Lupin is a good person, his character is almost the best among the predators. This sword has stood in Lupin's soul. Xiaoming originally just wanted to increase his lifespan and health. It would be better if he could have some superpowers. But what he never expected was that Xiaoming's sword of rewarding good and punishing evil has become very flexible. Rewards can be given according to different people. Lupin has gained a superpower, that is, from now on, Lupin's vision will automatically block the full moon. Even if he sees it, it's as if he didn't see it. In other words, if he can't see the full moon, he will never turn into a wolf again. I believe Lupin will be very happy about this. Sirius knew that Lupin was not a natural werewolf. When he was 4 years old, his father offended the werewolf Fenrir Greyback. This guy is one of Voldemort's Death Eaters, the leader of the werewolves, and is very cruel. In revenge, Fenrir broke into the bedroom through the window and bit little Lupin. Lupin became a werewolf from then on. His parents tried various ways to save him, but to no avail. And werewolf blood is also unsolvable in the magic world. Lupin could not have thought that a child he met had quietly solved his problem. In a few days, when the first full moon comes, Lupin will find this out. Maybe he will become the object of research by the magic world later, but that's all for later. This kind of thing will definitely not produce any results. Not to mention the magicians, even Xiaoming can't replicate this result. Most werewolves who are inserted with the reward and punishment sword are probably the objects to be punished. Even if a few can be rewarded by the reward and punishment sword, they may not be the same as Lupin. Xiaoming still doesn't understand this mechanism. It may change with the other party's wishes. So this matter is destined to have no results, and it may be attributed to Lupin's special physique in the end. In view of the special situation of the right guard of the leader, he and Professor Lupin were arranged in a large suite on the 8th floor of Hogwarts Castle. Because the headmaster's office is on the 8th floor, if he has any problems, Dumbledore can respond immediately. On the same floor, there is also the Gryffindor Common Room, Professor Phileas Flitwick's office, and the famous Room of Requirement. After Professor Lupin watched Xiaoming sleep, he set off for the headmaster's office. Here Dumbledore and the professors were chatting enthusiastically. Of course, they would not go to bed honestly. At this time, they must discuss how to arrange the right guard of the leader. After Lupin came, as a relative, everyone asked him many questions, mainly to confirm the character of the right guard of the leader. Dumbledore actually knew that the right guard of the leader was not a relative of Lupin, but there was no need to let everyone know about this. After discussion, everyone agreed with the headmaster's decision. On the surface, the right guard of the leader will temporarily live in Hogwarts as a relative of Professor Lupin. In fact, he was hired as a visiting professor and opened a special course, which is ninjutsu. This course is not open to all students in the school. Only interested teachers are allowed to learn ninjutsu from Xiaoming. And they must keep it secret for him. The deans of the 4 colleges each have 1 recommendation quota, and can recommend 1 person to learn. The principal has 2 quotas. Of course, Xiaoming has the right to refuse a student. Correspondingly, the school will pay the right guard of the leader the same salary as other professors. Basically, all the facilities in the school are open to him, including the library. As for the classroom for teaching ninjutsu, Dumbledore chose the Room of Requirement. It is a magical room, also known as the Coming and Going Room. It sometimes appears and sometimes disappears, and can only be entered when a person really needs it. When it appears, it is always arranged to meet the needs of the person seeking help. This room is located on the 8th floor of Hogwarts Castle, opposite the tapestry of the troll beating the fool Barnabas with a stick. When the user concentrates on the required venue and walks through that wall 3 times, a very smooth door will appear on the wall, and the person seeking help can enter the Room of Requirement. Given that many ninjutsu are highly destructive, not to mention Hogwarts Castle, even the Forbidden Forest is not suitable for use. Instead, the Room of Requirement can meet teaching needs. At the beginning, only a few teachers learned ninjutsu from Xiao Ming. There was no ordinary student. Probably they planned to test the waters with teachers first. There was only one class every Saturday night. The first batch of students only had the following 5 people: the headmaster and the deans of the 4 branches: Albus Dumbledore, Phileas Flitwick, Minerva McGonagall, Severus Snape, Pomona Sprout. The last one, Pomona Sprout, was the dean of Hufflepuff College and the teacher of herbology. She was a short witch with flowing gray hair. She usually wore a thick hat full of patches and was covered in mud. Because she always stayed in the greenhouse to fiddle with flowers and plants, she was an optimistic and compassionate person. Sprout's combat ability was average, but she was extremely talented in herbs and was considered a strategic talent. In peacetime, she could only grow flowers and plants. Hufflepuff House, famous for its food-related spells, is perhaps the most caring of the 4 major houses of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, with the most students. House spirit, integrity, loyalty, honesty, and fearlessness of hardship. Admission criteria: hardworking and loyal, and treat them equally. House logo: badger, representative colors, yellow and black, roughly corresponding element is earth. The Sorting Hat said, "You may belong to Hufflepuff, where people are upright and loyal. Hufflepuff students are perseverant and honest, and are not afraid of hard work." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1436. These 5 people are worthy of being the principal and branch dean of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. They are all geniuses. In this semester, they all developed chakra. Moreover, the attributes of chakra are divided according to the academy. Professor Pomona Sprout of Hufflepuff House awakened Earth Chakra. Phileas Flitwick of Ravenclaw House awakened Wind Chakra. Professor Severus Snape of Slytherin House awakened Water Chakra. Albus Dumbledore, who was born in Gryffindor House, and Minerva McGonagall, the headmaster of the house, both awakened Fire Chakra. Not a single one of the 5 has the Thunder attribute, let alone Yin escape and Yang escape. Xiao Ming swore to God that he did not plant chakra seeds for them. They really did it on their own. Putting aside these advanced combat powers for the moment, Xiao Ming and the trio of protagonists have also become friends in the past 6 months. The cause of everything is naturally the Claude 6 style. A few days after school started, the 3 little ones took the initiative to play with Xiao Ming in the name of visiting Professor Lupin. "Brother, please help me to change again. It's all Hermione's fault. I have to restore Scabbers." Ron squeezed the pet rat Scabbers tightly and asked with a flattering smile to the leader's right guard. "What a bad person. This mouse is Peter Pettigrew. After all, you have been in Ron's house for 12 years, so you have to have some feelings, right?" Unexpectedly, Ron sold Claude so easily for the 6th form. Xiao Ming actually saw faint tears in the mouse's eyes. "You can't always bully Ban Ban. To be honest, Pettigrew actually didn't mind being turned into a combo knife. After all, after turning into a knife, it would be even harder to be discovered by Sirius and Lupin. Moreover, the combination knife is hard and not easily damaged. Much stronger than a mouse's body. Life is more secure. But facing Ron's betrayal without hesitation, it really made him feel a little uncomfortable. At this time, he seemed to understand the feelings of the Potter family. The way of heaven is so cyclical. Ron, don't be stupid. Hermione really had no way to deal with this idiot. The knife doesn't have to be scabbers. Anything can be used. Ah, really? Ron asked innocently. Hermione and Harry were both speechless. This is common sense in magic. Unlike Hermione, who has no interest in Claude 6 styles. Harry also liked the look of the knife. When Hermione used the reduction spell on Scabbers, he wasn't very supportive. Ron has been stealing the show these days. Claude 6 styles attracted almost all the male students in the school, and they almost didn't sell tickets to visit. Many people came to borrow it and play. I earned a lot of favors for nothing. Especially when the limelight overshadowed Draco Malfoy, it felt most comfortable. He is Harry Potter's nemesis. The Malfoy family is an ancient, wealthy, and influential pure-blood wizard family, and one of the 28 pure-blood holy families. He is related to many pure-blood families. The family believed in blood purity, so Draco's parents, Lucius and Narcissa, were both Death Eaters. In the future, little Draco won't be able to run away. Draco has a slightly pale face, a pointed chin, light blonde hair and gray eyes, and he can be considered a handsome boy. In fact, when he was in first grade, he extended a hand of friendship to Harry Potter. At that time, he said to Harry, "You will soon find that some wizarding families are much better than others. Potter, you don't want to make friends with the wrong kind of people. At this point, I can help you." The other families he meant were none other than the Weasley family. Although they both belong to the 28 Sacred Clan, they have conflicting ideas. The Malfoy family looked down upon the Weasley family. Harry's parents are both magicians, so he is considered a pure-blood magician. Even if the Potter family is not one of the 28 clans, it's because they destroyed Voldemort. Draco was willing to condescend to be friends with Harry. In his opinion, this was already a very generous invitation. Harry Potter should just accept it and flatter himself wildly. Well, Draco could give in one more step, and it wouldn't even matter if he didn't flatter him. Draco felt proud to be friends with the descendant of the wizard who destroyed Voldemort. But how could Harry like such a domineering guy? With just "I think I can tell who is the wrong kind of person, thank you," the two became mortal enemies. After all, that's all there is to a sworn enemy between children. There is a difference between mortal enemies and adults. Because the Malfoy family is very rich, and Harry doesn't know that he is actually very rich, so Draco often shows off his wealth in front of him. Ron and Hermione were of no help in this regard. Things will be different when school starts this year. Ron has Claude 6 styles in his hand. This combination knife is unique in the world of Harry Potter. No matter how rich the Malfoy family is, they won't be able to get another one in a short time. Of course, if Draco remembered the style, he could go home and spend money to customize another one. However, this requires him to be very familiar with Claude 6 forms. Draco was too embarrassed to bow his head to Ron to borrow the knife. It made him very depressed. So Ron and Harry were always happy. Only Hermione is a girl and she really can't understand boys' love for swords and guns. Not very happy. Otherwise, she would not take the initiative to use the reduction technique on Ban. However, Hermione insisted that she couldn't bear to see Scabbers being a knife all the time, and it wasn't because she was jealous that it stole her limelight. Ron's plea, Harry's eagerness to try, and Hermione's disdain, Xiao Ming saw them all, and just thought these 13-year-old kids were so cute. Haha, no problem, you don't need transfiguration, I'll just make you a similar knife, be careful not to be transfigured by others. Hermione seemed to feel it a little, and her face flushed. Ron still answered foolishly. Don't be afraid. We have Hermione, even if someone uses transfiguration, we can change back. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas, silly boy, Xiaoming means to be on guard against Hermione, okay. You still expect her to change you back, you're dreaming. But then again, as long as Ron and Harry ask for it in a good way, Hermione will probably really help them if she gets the attention she needs. Children's friendship is simple and pure. Xiaoming put his hands on the ground and used alchemy to directly transform several floor tiles into Claude 6 style combination knife. Of course, it is unbladed and can't hurt people. Xiaoming made 2 swords at once, one for Ron and one for Harry. They were so happy that they jumped 3 feet high. In addition, we couldn't ignore the pouting little beauty Hermione. I guess she doesn't like swords, so Xiaoming made her a white-based blue-edged female Chinese costume. She was so happy that she almost lost her mind. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1437. The relationship between children is very simple. As long as they share toys and snacks with each other, they are good friends. Huang Xiaoming, the leader's right guard, conquered the 3 little ones with toys only, and he hasn't used the killer weapon of fortified food yet. There is a give and take, and the protagonists gave Xiaoming a lot of snacks and toys from the magic world. For example, BB multi-flavored beans, chocolate frogs, etc. These are things that they thought the leader's right guard would like, but Xiaoming actually has no interest in them. This can't be blamed on others, who let Xiaoming have a 6-year-old appearance. The students of Hogwarts all know that this child has a talent for magic, but they don't know how strong he is. With this title, Xiaoming has an excuse to stay in the magic school. Hermione Granger also lent her used textbooks and notes to Xiaoming so that he could learn through them. Her magic experience is almost not worth mentioning in front of the memories of Dumbledore, Sirius, and others. It is rare that the little girl has such a kind heart, and Xiaoming is still very happy to accept it. Right guard, can I ask you for a favor? Ron suddenly asked. This kid is probably going to do something weird again. What is it? Just tell me. Xiaoming patted his chest and pretended to be righteous. In the future, there will definitely be other students who will ask for this kind of knife. Can you not give it to them? Well, it turns out that he wants these 2 sets of combination knives to become out of print. Harry thought it was a good idea and nodded like a chicken eating rice. Hermione was more sensible and criticized the 2 best friends. No, that will cause public outrage. If it were you, you should just sell it for money. He looked at Ron's disappointed face and felt a little embarrassed. He added, or, don't sell such a big one in the future. Just sell the small toys. Harry suddenly thought of something and asked loudly, what if a girl asks for this kind of hanfu? Give it to them too. No. No, the words of rejection came out of his mouth. After saying it, Hermione knew that it was not good and her face turned red with shame. The other 3 children laughed without hesitation. It seems that when they encounter their favorite things, there is not much difference between boys and girls. After the 4 children played for a while, Professor Lupin came back. The protagonists turned to ask the professor for magic. This is their excuse for coming here. Xiaoming was also very lucky that he was not good at playing with children. If Lupin didn't come back, he might take out the Chinese artifact, mahjong. In the future, it would spoil the atmosphere of the entire Hogwarts, and I don't know who to blame. The trio stayed for a long time before reluctantly leaving. When they left, they not only took away the gifts, but also won the title of the exclusive distributor of the right guard of the leader in Hogwarts. Xiao Ming couldn't stand the students coming to him one after another to ask for things, and he didn't have the time. So he got some small Claude 6 style and hanfu and handed them over to the three people to manage. The condition was that they were not allowed to sell them for money, but could only exchange them with other children. As for what to exchange and who to exchange with, it was all up to the three of them. At the same time, Lupin also said that he was very busy with work and had no time to take care of the leader's right guard. He hoped that the three of them would come here more often to play with the right guard, or take him out to play. The professor's thoughts were not difficult to guess. Since the leader's right guard was strong, it was right for Harry and the others to be around him often. Get a free bodyguard. Xiao Ming didn't hate these three guys, after all, they were all good kids. But he didn't want to always hang out with the protagonists. Because most of the main storylines revolve around the protagonists. If I were there, those stories might not happen. I obviously don't intend to interfere with this world. But then again, since I have obtained the memories of Dumbledore, Snape, and Sirius, it seems that I should do something for them. Although Xiao Ming also got most of Voldemort's memories, Dumbledore still has the advantage of 3-1. Then just bear with it. If Voldemort or the Death Eaters come to attack and happen to meet me, it's their bad luck. Not long after, Xiao Ming got another remnant of Voldemort's soul. From Ravenclaw's diadem. This thing is hidden in the room of requirement. But it won't become 3-2, because the memory of this remnant soul is more than the previous one. It has no value. Xiao Ming often goes in and out of the room of requirement because he teaches ninjutsu to professors. One day, he happened to run into it. After the collision, Voldemort was unlucky. Ravenclaw's diadem is the only relic of Rowena Ravenclaw, the founder of Ravenclaw College. She cast a spell on it to increase the wisdom of the wearer. The diadem is a glittering crown inlaid with gems. The bottom edge of the crown is engraved with Ravenclaw's famous motto "Extraordinary wisdom is the greatest wealth of mankind." This thing was not originally in the room of requirement. It was stolen by Ravenclaw's daughter Helena because Helena hoped that the diadem would make her smarter. Ravenclaw has kept the secret. Not long after, Ravenclaw fell ill and wanted to see his daughter again, so he asked the Bloody Baron, who loved Helena, to find Helena. The Bloody Baron found Helena in the Albanian forest. When she saw him, Helena quickly hid the crown in a tree hole. Baron dragged her back to see her mother, but she refused to move. Finally, the Bloody Baron lost his patience and killed her by mistake. After killing her, he regretted it, so he stabbed himself and ended his life. Ravenclaw also died of illness a few days later. No one knew where the tree where the tiara was hidden was, and no one knew who had seen it, let alone whether it still existed. The tiara disappeared from then on. A few centuries later, Tom Marvolo Riddle came to Hogwarts. At this time, Helena had become the ghost of Ravenclaw, known as Lady Grey. Riddle learned from her where the tiara was hidden, and soon after graduation, he rushed to the Albanian forest to find the tiara, made it into the fifth Horcrux, and hid it in the room of requirement. But Riddle did not cast a strong protective magic on the tiara, because he felt that he was the only one who knew about this house that could not even be marked on the Marauder's map. I was careless. In fact, there were many people who knew about the room of requirement. Dumbledore once took a wrong turn when he went to the toilet and entered this place, which was filled with all kinds of exquisite and luxurious chamber pots. If Voldemort knew that the room of requirement was known to Dumbledore for this reason, and that his Horcrux was destroyed because of this, he would probably be so angry that he would have a cerebral infarction and die again. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1438. Ravenclaw's diadem was quite lucky. If it hadn't met Xiao Ming and extracted the remnant of Voldemort's soul inside it, the end of this treasure would have been terrible. In the original book, after Harry's repeated requests, Ms. Grey, i.e. Helena, finally told Harry everything about the diadem. So the protagonists went to the room of requirement to destroy the diadem. They happened to run into Malfoy and the other three and had a big fight. When Malfoy's partner Crabbe attacked, he accidentally released Fiendfire, a substance that can destroy Horcruxes. The diadem was destroyed by Fiendfire. Except for Harry, all Horcruxes ended up like this. Magicians must destroy Horcruxes to destroy the remnant of Voldemort inside. Voldemort is a stuffy guy. Just look at his Horcruxes, Ravenclaw's diadem, Slytherin's locket, Hufflepuff's gold cup. Well, except for Gryffindor, he ruined the founders' relics of the other three colleges. It makes sense that Gryffindor's relics survived. The relics left by Gryffindor are the Sorting Hat and the Sword of Gryffindor. The Sorting Hat has always been in the public eye, so it is difficult for Voldemort to get his hands on it. It is also difficult to hide. Things like Horcruxes must be hidden to avoid being destroyed. As for the Sword of Gryffindor, only those who truly possess the unique qualities of Gryffindor can get it when they need it. This is not about simply picking it up with your hands, but pulling the sword out of the Sorting Hat. Voldemort obviously does not have this quality and has no chance of getting the sword. The sword was forged by goblins, and Godric Gryffindor just bought it. The goblins have always wanted to get it back. The sword can absorb things that can strengthen it. In the story of One Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry stabbed the basilisk to death with the sword, and the sword was soaked with the basilisk's venom. The venom of the basilisk is a substance that can destroy Horcruxes. The Sword of Gryffindor absorbed the venom and also had the function of destroying Horcruxes. In the original book, the three Horcruxes Marvolo Gaunt's-Ring, Slytherin's locket, and the Snake Nagini were all destroyed by this sword. However, in this life, with the huge variable of Xiaoming, everything is not certain. Through Voldemort's memory, Xiaoming also knew that it was the crown of Ravenclaw, and took it out of the room of requirement. He kept pretending that he didn't know it and played with it. Later, Dumbledore saw it and was shocked. So the item was returned to its original owner. The treasure was taken by the headmaster to the Dean of Ravenclaw, Professor Phileas Flitwick, for placement. Xiaoming gained the achievement of add 10 favorability of these two. There was another thing that was taken away by Dumbledore at the same time, which was a statue of a mouse. Nanny. What does Dumbledore want this thing for? In fact, this statue is the mouse Scabbers who was cast a transfiguration spell, that is, Peter Pettigrew. It fell into Xiaoming's hands because of his master Ron, who valued knife more than pet. Xiaoming used the two Claude 6 style combination knives to exchange it with Ron to play with it for a few days. After that, he never returned it. In fact, as soon as he got it, Xiaoming used the transfiguration spell to turn it into a statue to prevent him from escaping. Although it is impossible for Pettigrew to run away from Xiaoming, it is too much trouble to keep an eye on him all the time. Xiaoming simply turned him into a statue. This matter was done in front of Professor Lupin. At that time, he wanted the professor to take it to Dumbledore to do the right thing. As for Ron, someone will naturally tell him the truth in the future. However, in order to overturn Sirius's case, Dumbledore planned to be more fully prepared, so he kept it with Xiaoming for a while before taking it away for disposal. During this period, the three protagonists came to Xiaoming's place many times, but Ron never thought about asking for Ban Ban back. What a ruthless master! In fact, Ron didn't want it back, but Xiaoming changed his mind every time with his telepathic ability Whisper, and he always forgot to ask for it. At the beginning, it was really big news that the 6-year-old child, the leader's right guard, moved into Hogwarts. Many students came to watch the leader's right guard under various pretexts. After a while, the novelty wore off. After that, apart from Harry, Ron, and Hermione, there were only a few people who often came to Xiaoming to play. For example, Other members of the Weasley family often came to Xiaoming because they were interested in the Muggle world. There were also 3 other regulars, Neville Longbottom from Gryffindor, and Luna Lovegood and Zhang Qiu from Ravenclaw. Needless to say, Zhang Qiu is of Chinese descent just by looking at his name. The reason for coming here often is naturally because they are both yellow people. In fact, the Naruto that Xiaoming pretended to be should be considered a Japanese in this world, but don't worry about such a small matter. Neville and Luna like the atmosphere of staying around Xiaoming. Both of them have some small problems in their personalities. They are not very comfortable getting along with their classmates. Neville is stupid and a little dull. Luna is a little mysterious. They are not very sociable. Luna is often bullied by classmates around her. Neville's classmates are willing to help him, but he doesn't like to always hold his friends back. Only the leader's right guard treats them with a calm attitude, which makes the two feel very comfortable, so they often come to play with Xiaoming. When the 3 of them are together, they hardly talk, each reading their own books and doing their own things. There is a feeling that the friendship between gentlemen is as light as water. This kind of atmosphere is not what children like, so gradually, except for some specific characters, most students stopped coming. It just so happened that Xiaoming was too lazy to care about so many foreigners, and these 2 actually played the role of mosquito coils, and Xiaoming was very happy. There are reasons for the 2 of them to form this kind of character. It was all caused by childhood tragedies. Luna is very beautiful, with silver eyes and dark golden brown hair. Her bulging eyes make her always have a surprised expression, pale skin, and light eyebrows. When Luna was 9 years old, her mother Pandora Lovegood died unfortunately because of a spell that went wrong. She was greatly stimulated by this. Neville is even more pitiful. Because he is average in appearance, has a round face and is slightly fat. The Longbottom family is actually one of the 28 sacred families, but unfortunately it is now somewhat declining. His parents Frank Longbottom and Alice Longbottom are both Aurors and the original members of the Order of the Phoenix, fighting against Voldemort and the Death Eaters with Dumbledore. Auror is a profession, usually called a hunter of dark magicians, with excellent combat power. After Voldemort's death, they were captured by the Death Eaters and tortured to insanity. Young Neville once witnessed that scene. Because it was too cruel, he was cast with the Oblivion Curse, which damaged his mind. In view of the tragic life stories of the 2, as long as they are around, Xiaoming will quietly and slowly treat them. Maybe he and the 2 subconsciously felt it, so they became frequent visitors. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1439. In addition to the characters in the plot, Xiaoming also had to receive other reincarnations. Of course, reincarnations don't show up so easily, and only 3 people came to see Xiaoming in person. Among these 3 reincarnations, none of them sneaked into Hogwarts as a student. 2 of them were errand boys, and the other was a little better, an assistant teacher. The reincarnations in this world are roughly divided into 2 teams. One team is naturally sent by the Suk family, the other team is a group of retail investors who automatically form a group in the face of the Suk family. Among the retail investors, only one person came to see Xiaoming. That person cosplayed Hawkeye from One Piece, and his own ability was Huashan swordsmanship and Zixiagong, a D-level reincarnation. He came to Xiaoming just to say hello on behalf of the retail investors. There was no special purpose. The world of Harry Potter is a magical world, and martial arts can barely be used. It depends on the ability of this reincarnation to adapt to changes. Those retail reincarnations united together just to avoid being bullied by the Suk family, but there was no special goal. And it is difficult to unite as one. Fortunately, the Su family is the most Buddhist faction among the various forces in the reincarnation space. There is no need to worry about being in the same world with them. Besides, this time, the Su family actually only formed a team of a few people to enter the mission world. They just prepared to get a boggart. They did not send in much power, and they did not have the capital to be arrogant. There are two people sent by the Su family to meet Xiao Ming. One is called Sujong Elbow, a D-level magician. He is probably a collateral descendant of the Su family. It was his handiwork to send a paper crane message to Xiao Ming before. Xiao Ming actually knew the other one, Li Hong from the Li family. In the event of eliminating the zombie cave in Mount Fuji on Pangu Star, he was the leader of the Li family's team. He is a C-end level magician. He is like a fish in water in this world. He has obtained the status of an assistant teacher, which is much better than other reincarnationists. Logically, Li Hong should be with the retail reincarnationists. But the Li family is also a big family and has some friendship with the Su family. Therefore, he accepted the employment of the Su family, and with the help of his position, he could help the Su family a little and earn some extra money. Of course, Xiao Ming is now a child, and Li Hong did not recognize him. He just felt a little familiar. The two of them came to see the leader's right guard together, naturally to avoid conflict. To finalize the ownership of the boggart. After that, there was no more contact. On this day, a big thing happened in Hogwarts School, and Sujong Elbow hurriedly knocked on the door of Professor Lupin's suite. Xiao Ming just went over and opened the door, and he hurriedly said, "Brother, something big happened, Minister of Magic Fudge is here, you know." Before he finished speaking, he saw a room full of people and swallowed back the next question he wanted to ask. In the original plot, Minister Fudge should have come in the summer of 1994, and it was still the end of 1993. He shouldn't have come. Since the plot suddenly changed, Sujong Elbow came to ask this special reincarnation with a try-it mentality. Just in case he knows, I can spend some money to buy some information. However, for such a big thing, he is not the only one who comes to the leader's right guard. Before Sujong Elbow, several plot characters have come. "Brother Elbow, you are late. Ron was the first to tell me about this." Sujong Elbow looked and saw that the three protagonists were all there, but their expressions were very ugly. After asking around, he found out the whole story. At the beginning of the semester, Rubius Hagrid brought out a hippogriff, Buckbeak, in the care of magical creatures class. This is a powerful magical flying creature with a giant eagle's head, wings, and front claws, and the back half of the body, including the legs and tail, is like a horse. It can run, fly, and fight. The hippogriff is a very ferocious carnivore before it is tamed, and only well-trained wizards can tame it. Hagrid used it to teach, intending to let the students broaden their horizons. During this time, Harry Potter also got a chance to ride on Buckbeak's back and fly happily for a long time. This class was originally very successful. Unexpectedly, Draco Malfoy was so stupid that he actually provoked Buckbeak, and was scratched by it. His arm was suspended for half a year. This was actually Malfoy's fault, but the boy used the power of his family, and it was Hagrid and Buckbeak who were sued in the court of the Ministry of Magic. The reason was that such a dangerous creature should not be brought to the classroom of junior students at Hogwarts. The case is still under trial. Today, the Minister of Magic Fudge suddenly visited Hogwarts. Harry and others thought that he was probably here to deal with Buckbeak and Hagrid. The three were very worried, so they ran to find the leader's right guard, a person with mysterious Oriental blood, to see if he would have any special way to help. After getting this news, Sujong Elbow left as if he had found a treasure. He thought this was the standard answer. He was so happy to get important news without spending money. Neville, Luna, and Zhangqiu arrived a little later than the three little ones. The first two were just here to hide. Zhang Qiu was planning to take the right guard to see the Minister of Magic from a distance. As a result, the three of them were pulled by Harry and others to find a solution together. Xiaoming estimated that Fudge was not here for this matter. It might be because of ninjutsu, or it might be because of Sirius, either of which was more important than Buckbeak's matter. In fact, it was exactly the case. At this time, Dumbledore had already led people to capture Pettigrew. Because he was turned into a statue, this guy had no power to resist. Xiaoming was an outsider and was young, so this kind of action was not carried out on him. Dumbledore invited Fudge to the school to clear Sirius's name. To interrogate Pettigrew. It would be best if the Minister of Magic was present for this kind of thing. Of course, with such a great contribution, Dumbledore suggested that Hagrid and Buckbeak be exempted from punishment, which is not a difficult thing. The collective learning of ninjutsu by the 5 great magicians is still in the experimental stage. There is no rush to explain to the minister. In addition, Fudge came this time for another very important matter, which is about Dementors. These days, Xiaoming not only collected all the Dementors surrounding Hogwarts School, but also collected 2 batches of Dementors sent by the Ministry of Magic later. There are not many Dementors in total, about 100 or so. Xiaoming has collected almost half of them. So many Dementors were lost in Hogwarts, but Dumbledore was clueless. As a minister, it would be a dereliction of duty for Fudge not to investigate. These things are intertwined, and different people have different priorities. For example, in Fudge's mind, the Dementors are the first, in Dumbledore's mind, Pettigrew's is the first, only in the children's minds, Buckbeak's matter is the most important. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1440. Don't worry, Harry. If it's just because of Hagrid and Buckbeak, Minister Fudge doesn't need to come to Hogwarts. He should have something more important to do. Luna's mind is clear and what she said makes sense. Harry, Hermione, Zhang Qiu, and others all nodded in agreement. Only Ron was a nitpicker. He nitpicked, "How do you know what those big shots think? Maybe they came for this. I have this feeling. Let me do some divination." Ah! You hit me again. Ron was talking about feelings and divination. He was knocked on the head by Hermione, who couldn't bear it anymore before he shut up. It's true that Hermione is a top student. She has almost all the magical knowledge, but there is only one thing that the little girl is not good at, that is divination. This kind of weird stuff is really not her cup of tea. As a top student, she will naturally hate the subjects that she can't learn well. More importantly, at the beginning of the semester, during the divination class, the divination professor Sybil Trelawney asked everyone to do tea leaf divination. When she saw Harry's teacup, she was extremely shocked and said that Harry had divined Grim. The shape of the tea leaves at the bottom of the cup is like a demon dog, which is the darkest omen in the world, and it is a sign of death. The trio was scared to death. So Hermione was not very happy when she heard the word divination. In fact, this is the magical world, and divination makes sense. And Professor Trelawney seems to be crazy, but she is very capable. She made important and accurate divinations many times in the original book. A few children chatted casually, and naturally they couldn't come up with any results. After a cup of tea, they went back to their homes and looked for their mothers. At this time, Harry Potter had made up his mind to put on the invisibility cloak to see what was going on. After leaving Xiaoming, he, Ron, and Hermione really did it. Originally, Harry wanted to take the leader's right guard with him. But Hermione thought it was dangerous and she shouldn't bring a 6-year-old child with her, so she gave up. The three of them put on the invisibility cloak, sneaked out of the Gryffindor common room and went to the principal's office, passing Xiaoming on the way. The invisibility cloak is one of the famous 3 Deathly Hallows. It is said to be a treasure made by the god of death. Its invisibility function can actually hide from S-level masters. But the problem is that Xiaoming also has the identity of Hades, which is basically equivalent to the god of death. So he can feel the invisibility cloak and see through it. In the Saint Seiya world, the god of death is the subordinate of Hades. But in most worlds, the god of death and Hades can be equated. After pretending to pass by the three protagonists as if nothing had happened, Xiaoming also put on his invisible uniform and quietly followed Harry and others. He probably had a positive mind and wanted to compete with the invisibility cloak to see whose invisibility ability was stronger. By the way, watch the fun and gossip. The three protagonists have already found out that Fudge, Dumbledore, and some other professors are having a meeting in the principal's office. So they squatted in front of the entrance of the principal's office and waited foolishly. This is also helpless. If it is an ordinary room, they can still quietly push the door in, just as if a gust of wind blew the door open inexplicably. But the entrance of the principal's office is guarded by a stone statue of a gargoyle. When the visitor correctly says the password, the gargoyle will jump to the side. The wall behind it will also split in half, allowing people to enter the principal's office through a spiral staircase hidden behind that moves slowly upwards. It's like taking an elevator. Therefore, it is impossible for the three little ones to sneak in quietly. Which wind can give a password and make the stairs automatically rise? They have to wait for someone to enter or leave before they can take a ride in. Unexpectedly, this wait lasted for an hour or so. When the three little ones were about to fall asleep, Professor Lupin suddenly came out of the principal's office, and everyone couldn't help but be shocked. I hope he still needs to come back. Sure enough, after a while, Lupin led a big black dog that looked very ferocious. Harry and the other two were shocked. They couldn't help but murmur in their hearts, what does it mean to lead a dog to the meeting between the Minister of Magic and the Headmaster of Hogwarts? Is he going to make dog meat hot pot? But they didn't have time to think about it, so they followed as soon as possible, and Xiaoming naturally followed closely. He recognized at a glance that the black dog was the incarnation of Sirius. Lupin actually took him to see Fudge. It seems that the effect of the discussion there was good. Peter Pettigrew was not the kind of Death Eater who believed in pure blood and swore to follow Voldemort to death. He followed Voldemort purely because he was afraid of death. So it was almost no difficulty to interrogate him, and he confessed everything he knew. To ensure this, Dumbledore and others also used truth serum on him. This truth serum is not a chemical agent in the human world, but a magic potion from the magic world, which has been blessed by magic. The effect is hundreds of times better. Since the evidence was irrefutable, Fudge announced on the spot that Sirius Black was vindicated. Within a few days, the news would spread throughout the wizarding world. After all, Sirius was from the Black family, so it was best not to offend him. Although Sirius had been expelled from the family tree, he still controlled part of the Black family's property and had a complicated relationship with them. Even if the bones were broken, the tendons were still connected. The phenomenon of intermarriage within the Sacred 28 was very serious. If you count carefully, most of the families were relatives. Sirius's connections should not be underestimated. It is true that some people in the family don't like him, but there are also some people with a gentler attitude who have a good relationship with Sirius. Therefore, the Ministry of Magic was unwilling to make Sirius an enemy unless it had to. You have to be merciful and merciful. In the stairs, Blake, who was restrained by the dog's body, was a little excited, finally able to return to the light. It's just too long. Suddenly he felt that the atmosphere was a little strange, as if there were other people on the stairs. Just as he was about to bark twice to inform his friend Lupin, a voice sounded in his head. "SHH, Boss Black, don't make any noise. I am the leader's right guard. Harry and I are invisible, just in the stairs. Don't expose us. Also, congratulations." After a while, Harry will be able to see it in person, seeing that you have been wronged. Can you be happy? Sirius was frightened because he had always thought that the leader's right guard didn't know about the big black dog. Only now do I realize that people probably knew this already. The ability of this hand to directly send sounds into the brain is probably some kind of advanced ninjutsu, which he cannot do. There are many question marks in his dog's mind. However, this was overshadowed by the news that Harry Potter was also present. Black was Harry's godfather, so he thought he could clear his grievances in front of his godson. Sirius felt overwhelmed with happiness. I can't care about anything else. The stairs rotated slowly, and soon everyone in the principal's office saw Professor Lupin, who was returning, and a big black dog with a face full of joy.